What do you mean by reading comprehension and summary? To start with, you may wish to notice that this lecture consists of two independent but related parts, that is reading comprehension and summary. Earlier in your schedule or in the course outline, you may notice that summary is a separate module, TAC module 6. But for the purpose of conveniences and comprehension, the lecture, we decided to match the two together, that is making the two lectures to go through, because reading goes hand in hand with comprehension, comprehension and then summary writing. So let us take note of the fact that the module 3 consists of two modules. Thank you. Let's go into the course proper. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Once more, we are now going to discuss the second part of module 4, that is the second lecture for module 4. As we have said, module 4 is on writing skill. Remember, in the previous module and the previous part, that is in module 4 part lecture 1, we look at writing as a skill, paragraph development, essay writing, the types, and letter writing. Okay, in this lecture, we are going to look at report writing, CV writing, email writing or writing of an electronic mail, minutes taking, memorandum. In this lecture, we are going to discuss what can be called formal correspondence. That is, these are, if you look at them, are some skills that all people are expected, or all educated persons are expected to have a mastery of, as far as the working requirement is concerned in the present world. Whether you are in private sector, private business, or whatever, you need the skill of writing reports, taking minutes, CV writing, email, and memorandum, because these are some of the expensive skills that one may use to communicate in the modern world. As we follow through the lecture, we expect you to take notes, make comment, observation, and question. Thank you. Okay. What's a report? We said with the report writing. We said according to Uber 1998, page 193, a report is a document providing an account of an event witnessed, work carried out, or investigation conducted, together with conclusion and open recommendations arrived at as a result of the investigation. Okay, in simple terms, report is a kind of a summation or a kind of account of what we witnessed or what we studied or investigate, which is accompanied by the conclusion, that is a kind of a finishing judgment or even recommendations arrive at as a result of what? The investigation, study, or observation. Okay. In other words, report is a detailed account of event that someone has truly observed, heard, done, or investigated, and presented as an official document. A report is usually written to guide organization in policy formulation and decision making. It is usually on the basis of some stated objectives and for a particular category of audience. A person who is tasked with writing a report is usually given instruction and guidelines on how to go about writing the report. This may include a clear structured format consisting of section, heading, and subheading, so that the location of the information can be easily followed. Then qualities of a good report. What makes a report to be considered a good one? We said a good report must be clear, accurate, and unambiguous. Number two, a good report must be well structured and highly organized. It should have section and subsection. A good report must be informative. And again, a good report must have a clear, defined objective and a scope. That is what the report covers. Finally, a good report must consider the need of potential reader. What the reader, a writer of a report must take into cognizance what the reader expects from him or her. Then, language of reporting. A language of reporting, besides being formal, needs to satisfy other linguistic requirements. Namely, for example, contraction. There should not be construction in report writing. Number two, cliche. There is no need for. These are overused words which lose their meaning and effect. For example, in a nutshell, it is again this background that at the end of the day, all this type of expression should be avoided in report writing. And also again, one should avoid use of what? Idioms. There should not be example, a pen in the boot, bury the hat, and what have you. One should be strictly formal in expression. Archaism, that is the use of old-fashioned or obsolete vocabulary or words. For example, the use of the, tho, nigh, and, does, drop, and what have you. The use of old-fashioned words should be avoided in report writing. And again, slangs should be as much as possible avoided. We said by slang we mean as expression which is considered very informal and therefore not used in formal writing. Non-conventional or uncommon abbreviation and acronyms should also be avoided. Although approved abbreviation can be used, that is universal abbreviation can be used, but they should not be what? It should not be used rampantly in report writing or unnecessarily in report writing. Formal report. This is otherwise known as official report, as it means for official purposes. It is written to provide information, analyze issues and make recommendations on how to solve a problem or make decisions. Example of formal report includes research project report, police report, evaluation reports, etc. The structure of a formal report. The structure of formal report depends upon one departmental organizational requirement. However, the format explained below is largely used in formal report. Number one, the title page. This should contain the title of the report, the name of the reporter, and the date of report is compiled and submitted, and the date in the report. The table of content. This should contain all chapters and heading together with their page number. This allows the reader to easily locate all parts of the report. A summary, or what is called an abstract. This gives a very brief explanation of the content of the report. It gives a summary of the purpose of the report, the method of the investigation, the major findings, and the conclusion or recommendations. If any. The introduction, that is the term of reference, that is a kind of a task given. In this session, the reporter should clearly discuss all the necessary background information, the aim of and objective of the report, as well as the definition of all the abbreviation and acronyms used in the report. Then, method of investigation should also be stated. Here, the writer is expected to give a detailed description of all the methods he or she used to gather the data for the report. This may include a list of all the equipment used, explanation of data collection procedure, such as questionnaire, interview, observation, discussion, and what have you. Limitation of the method used. Here, as well as the problem encountered. There should be also findings and conclusion. This section deals with the logical presentation of the findings of the report. To further support the result of the investigation, the writer may decide to include diagrams, tables, and graphs. This is followed by the conclusion, which may either take a form of highlighting the most important point of the report or show the overall significance of the research. These are the section, the nine section of formal report writing. Okay, curriculum vitae, CV. When applying for a job, it is paramount for a job seeker to give a good first impression to potential employers. This can only be achieved through writing a good curriculum vitae, henceforth CV. Also called resume, CV is a personal marketing document that job seekers use to sell themselves to potential employers. Thus, it is an important step in securing a job. As such, when it is well written, the candidate stands a good chance of securing his dream job. Conversely, when it is poorly written, the candidate may face rejection repeatedly from employers. A CV is expected to explain to your prospective employers a lot about you, including your professional history, skills, ability, and achievement, as well as why you are the best person for the job on offer. The University of Southampton Guide for Writing a CV identifies the following 10 rules of writing a successful CV. Number 1, this is simplicity. A successful CV should not be overcomplicated with too many categories and too many information that are required. Highlights. Because CV is a marketing tool, one should make sure it highlights all one's personal and professional achievements to date. Truthful. One should not fabricate or falsify any information in the CV, as it will become known to an employer at some point. Unique. The style and tone one uses in writing one CV should be personal to one. In other words, one should be direct, positive, and personal. Tailored. The content of one CV should be tailored in line with the current job application requirement as well as the job description. That is, one needs to be flexible when writing a CV. Word process. A good CV must be word process. It should be typed and spelling or grammar checked using a word processor. One also needs to avoid using slang, colloquialism, and clicks. Succinct. When writing a CV, one needs to be short and concise. Employers are never impressed with several pages of useless information. This, however, does not mean that any information should be lumped up together. Reverse chronology. In all the subheading of CV, the most recent event should come first, followed by the next and so on. Review. One should give one CV to a respected colleague to critically probe it and review it. Quality. A CV should be typed in an A4 size paper using an appropriate font size. Information should be well spaced so that the CV looks neat, qualitative, professional, and easy to read. You can use bullet points to identify and separate information, but make sure never use a colored text in a CV. The format of writing a CV. Although a CV can be written in a variety of ways based on the skill and experience of the writer, as well as the job requirement. There are particular sections that employers expect to see in a CV. These are explained below. That is, the points that are going to be explained below are universal. Although, as we have said, writing CV is depending upon the job requirement as well as the skill and the experience of the writer. Okay. The point, however, are said to be universal. Personal detail. This is positioned at the top of the page. It includes name, professional title, and contact details. Under no circumstance should you make the title of your CV as curriculum vitae or CV. Instead, your name should be taken as the title and should be followed by your address, phone number, and email address. Personal profile, also called personal statement, career profile, or professional profile. This section is one of the most important parts of a CV. This is a short paragraph that gives your prospective employer an overview about who you are, your career goal, and what you can offer to the company. Your profile should be tailored to every job you apply for by highlighting the specific qualities that make you the most suitable candidate for the job. What this means is that one should not just sit down as a job seeker, one should not just sit down and write all for one CV. Instead, depending on the job advertisement, sit down and tailor your CV to what you believe is what the employer will need or require. So one should learn to be updating his CV and making it suitable to the job he is or she is applying for. The next part is employment history. This should start with the most recent or the most relevant employment information. Even if you are not involved in any paid employment, it is likely that you are doing something at the time from which you have learned new skills. For each previous position, state your job title, the organization you work for, dates employed, projects involved in, position or responsibility held, achievement and experience gained. If you have many years worth of experience, you can reduce the detail of all or irrelevant roles. So one is expected to state his employment history clearly in the CV, but where there will be a kind of overflow of information, one should stick to the relevant and most important information on employment history. Education and qualification. This should also be written in a reverse chronological order. One should include the name of institution attended and the dates he/she attended them. And this is followed by the qualification and grades one achieved. In case of examination like WAEC, NECO, or NECO, one needs to include detail of all the subjects taken. They should be grouped together as 9 WAEC credit or 7 NECO credit and so on. Additional section. This is a range of additional sections that may strengthen your CV and highlight your skill. The following are some sections that can be included. Key skills. This section may sometimes come before employment history. You can include your languages and computing skill, noting that the level of fluency as well as evidence of using them. Noting the level of fluency as well as evidence of using them. Furthermore, you can include any other skills that you think are appropriate to the job you are applying for. Hobbies and interests. If you feel that your CV is still lacking, you can improve it by including your hobbies and interests. However, one must be careful not to include hobbies that may hinder one's chances of getting the job. One should draw only on those that are relevant to the job. Referees. In this section, try to identify reliable referees and include their name, job titles, contact address, and their link to you. Alternatively, many people decide to omit this section or state that references are available on request. It is important to look prior permission from your referee. That is, before you include someone's name, please consult him and let him know that you are including him in your referee. What not to include in a CV? Number one, a headshot. In some countries, it's common to include your picture on your CV. In a Nigerian context, it is not allowed. Age and date of birth. The only date that should be on your CV are those about your employment and qualification information. Your age should not determine your ability to do the job you are applying for. These details may even count against you in many instances. Marital status is another information that should not be included in a CV, as it does not influence one's ability to do the job. Many a time, marital status of an applicant may be used to discriminate against him or her. Writing an email or electronic mail. Electronic mail, known as email, is one of the newest and most sophisticated forms of correspondence between individuals and organizations. An email is a message which may contain text, file, images, and other attachments sent through a network to an individual or group of individuals. Email has a number of advantages over other forms of correspondence, in that it is faster and more instant way of sending and receiving information. Through an email, an individual can instantly transmit a large volume of information to a wide range of recipients. However, for someone to send or receive email message, he or she must have an email address and connect to a server. That is, there must be a kind of an internet connection which will allow for the sending and receiving of mail. An email address must contain a username and password which allows the user to access the email. Nearly all organizations nowadays have an email address and website which they use to correspond with their employees as well as the general public. State of writing an email. An email can be viewed or received through a computer or a cell phone that has an internet connection. When sending an email, the individual must first access his or her email address. After accessing the email page, one should click on Compose button. A panel will appear which contains three options. The first is designated To, and it is where the email address of the recipient of the message should be written. The second tag Subject, which is optional, and it is where a brief description of the content of the message can be given. The last is the Compose email button, which is the actual message to be sent should be written. One advantage of email is that if a sender wants to attach picture, audio files, or he or she can do so by clicking the attach file button, which leads the sender to a different location where pictures, audio, and video recordings are stored. After selecting the appropriate file, one should finally click on Send, and the message is instantly transmitted to the receiver inbox or recipient inbox. Therefore, the recipient can easily open and view the content of the message. The memorandum, in short, memo. Another way through which information is shared within and outside organization is through the use of memo, otherwise called memorandum. The memorandum is a form of correspondence meant to convey information to members of an organization or to other organizations or bodies. In some disciplines like law, a memorandum is regarded as a record of the term of a transaction or contract, such as policy memo, memorandum of understanding, Memorandum of Association, etc. Memorandum is divided into two types, internal and external. What's an internal memo? An internal memo is a memorandum written and circulated to people within the same organization. In other words, internal memorandum is a brief written communication aimed at passing information from an organization to its various employees or between and among officials in the organization. The topic of internal memorandum may range from general notification, request for action, to invitation for meetings. Format of an internal memo. The format of memorandum varies from one organization to another. That is, in writing a memorandum, some organizations may have specific format peculiar to them. In general, an internal memorandum has the following formats. Number one, heading. This comes from the top of the page and shows the name of the organization as well as the caption, internal memorandum. Then, prompt. Another section tagged prompt. This comes at the left-hand side of the page and shows the title of the officer writing the memorandum. For example, the HOD, the secretary, the chairman, the vice chancellor, and whatever. Then, 2. This comes below prompt. That is a section below, immediately below the prompt section, and it indicates the designation of the recipient of the memorandum. That is the people that are expected to be the receivers of the memorandum, and the date. This is written below the column 2. The subject or title of the message is written below the sections above. This can be written in uppercase alone or in upper and lower case. The body. This is the actual information the memorandum intends to convey. Then the name of the writer. This comes at the end of the memorandum. For example, here we can see a memorandum written by a travel agency, written in an internal memorandum of a travel agency, written by the general manager to all the staff on the 23rd December 2015, notifying them of the meeting. As we can see in the memorandum, the agenda were mentioned. The date, time, and the venue were all stated. Okay, external memorandum. This memorandum is usually written to send message to general public or other external organizations and bodies in order to convey information on certain specific issue. In other words, external memorandum is written from one organization to another organization or to general public. That is the topic of discussion, not meant for the staff of this particular organization, but maybe a general public or particular organization or individual outside the organization. In other words, external memorandum is written for the people outside a company, organization, and is written in more formal approach. And like in most writing, as we have said, external memorandum has an introduction, main body, and conclusion. It is important to note that the format of external memorandum differs from one company to another and depends on the person or organization to which memorandum would be sent. However, most of external memorandum are written in a form of formal letters. This is the end of this module. This is the end of this module 4, lecture 2, and generally the end of module 4. As we await the next module, you are endeavored to read, take note, make observation, and comment, question where necessary. Thank you. See you in the next module.